We completed, before we closed, we completed the portion on aids to meditation, where Bhagwan gave us the thoughts that we should have in the seat of meditation. Okay, and those type of thoughts we will not have unless we have done some shravanam, because aids to meditation is the last step out of the 3 steps: shravanam, mananam, nididhyasanam. Nididhyasanam is what we saw in the previous few lectures, and nididhyasanam can come only after shravanam and mananam is done. Shravanam is you have to hear all those things, and then mananam is when you have to remove all the doubts from your mind. And then in the seat of meditation, where when the mind is absolutely doubt free, when there are no doubts arising, then that mind will concentrate on those thoughts which we had heard in Shravanam and which we had made absolutely doubt free in mananam. And after that, now comes up the topic on vasanas. Vasanas is a huge topic. Give up vasanas, the method. Gurudev, these subtitles, Gurudev has given these. They are not in the original. When Bhagwan Shankaracharya wrote Vivek Chudamani, he just wrote it. He didn't do all this, but Gurudev has done this for our ease of understanding. So now we come to the topic of vasanas, and here we will also try and answer Benita's question that she had put in the last class. So let's see. We are on verse 267. It's page 329 in my book, but I'm not sure what edition you guys have. So it's verse number 267. Nyate vastunyapi balavati vasananaadiresha karta bhoktapyahamiti drida yasya samsara hetuhu pratyagdrishyatmani nivasata sapaneya prayatnat muktim prahustadiha munayo vasanatanavam yata. Even after the realization of truth, there remains a powerful, beginningless, deep impression that one is the doer and the enjoyer, which is the cause for rebirth. By living in a subjective state of steady identification with the self, it has to be conscientiously removed. That which is the annihilation of the vasanas here and now is called liberation by the sages. So let's first talk about vasana. What is vasana? Vasana, literally, if you translate the word meaning of vasana is fragrance. That is what it is. And it comes from the verbal root vas, from which also comes vastra. So vas means to pervade. Vas dhatu. So Ishavasya, we have Ishavasya Upanishad. That is also vas, because this world there, it is said, is pervaded by Ishvara. So vastra comes because vastra pervades our body, right? When we wear clothes, vastra, it pervades our body, it covers our body. So vas means that which pervades. And this vasana word comes from that root, from that verbal root. So what is a vasana? Vasana is a deep impression. And Gurudev has given us the example of previously, I'm sure quite a few remember, there are no more records anymore, but there used to be a record and there used to be a record player. There used to be a needle, and then on the record, there were the grooves, and the needle rotated in the grooves, and that's how the music or the song or whatever was heard. Okay, so Gurudev compared those grooves to vasanas. Vasanas are like those grooves. So what happens is when that needle goes on that groove, that same music comes out, right? Not that every time if you put one record, and there are many grooves, but no matter which groove, that same music comes out. So vasana is like that groove that we have created, and how have we created is by habit. See, vasana does not get created. Suppose if one day I feel like just doing something and I do it, I go for a movie, or I have a cup of coffee, or just one day if I do something, it doesn't create a vasana. To create a vasana, you have to have a repeated doing. So when you repeatedly think about when can I go for the next movie, when can I go for the next movie, when can I go for the next movie, or I cannot live without my cup of tea, I cannot live without my cup of tea. And then you go on having that cup of tea every day or whatever, then it develops into a vasana. And that vasana is always very, very subtle. It is so subtle that even we don't know what vasana we have. Okay, see, body is gross. Okay, so body, not only I can see my own body, you can also see my body. Okay, fine. Mind is subtler than the body, we say. But to me, mind is not subtle because I know my mind. Other people don't know my mind, but I know what is in my mind. So mind is subtler than the body, but it's not that subtle that even I don't know. But then vasana, if you remember Gurudev's chart, there is Om and then there is the V, which is closest to the Om. That indicates its subtlety. Body is here, then M, then I. So body is gross. M and I are subtle. V is subtler and Om is subtlest. That is the degree. So this V we call very subtler, we call, because even that individual doesn't know what vasanas are there. What vasanas, because those vasanas have come from many, many previous births. At least in this life, I can say, you know, like I was just thinking about this, and I remember my mom telling us that she actually put me and my brother on tea at age 3. When we turned 3, she herself needed her morning cup of tea, and what she did was she also got us into that habit. So now I can say that I have the tea vasana. That's where it started. That's where my mom put me. So every morning she'll give me tea. Now after 8 days, 10 days, 1 month, I got used to it. To this day, I'm used to my morning cup of tea. So that I can tell. So some vasanas you can tell. But then there are many, many vasanas which we have developed in the previous births. And those we cannot tell. The only way we can tell those is when that appears as a thought in the mind. This is the genesis of action, okay? There is a vasana which even I don't know. It crops up as a desire in the mind, and then that desire prompts me to act. All right? So people think that there was something external which triggered my action. It is incorrect. There is nothing external that can trigger an action. An action is always triggered by something internal. Action is always triggered by desire, and desire is triggered by vasana. Okay, so there was somebody who said, oh, no, you know, I saw this ad in the newspaper for whatever, for a movie, for a drama, for sale on clothes, shoes, whatever. And that's why the desire came in my mind to go for the movie or go for the sale or go buy shoes, go buy clothes, whatever. But then you have to think that so many people have seen that ad in the paper or on TV. Did all of them go there for the movie? Did all of them go for buying those clothes or shoes? No, you did. So why? Because you had that vasana that generated a desire, and the minute you saw it, that internal desire is what pushed you to go act. That's why we must never say that she did this and therefore I had to do this. It's not like that. Okay, so that's number one. Now, these vasanas are very, very subtle, and we don't know how many there are. There are millions and millions. For realization of truth, okay, for self-realization, to understand your oneness with Brahman, what needs to be done? What is covering this? you can say vasanas are like the clouds which are covering the sun. Okay, you can say that. So what is covering the sun is the clouds. What you have to do is remove the clouds and the sun will shine by itself. Same way, for realization of the truth, for knowing the truth, because that's why in the chart, the vasanas is in between the BMI and Om. In between the mind, intellect, and Om is the vasanas. So when that vasanas are removed, Om will shine by itself. Just like when the clouds are removed, sun will shine by itself. So what happens is, when a seeker is trying to, we saw aids to meditation, is trying to meditate, is trying to do nididhyasana, what he first needs, and we have always said that, is purity of mind. And because everything in the mind is triggered by the vasanas, purity of mind is purification of vasanas as well. If there are more and more sattvic thoughts coming in your mind, then know that there are more and more sattvic vasanas. Because if it is a sattvic vasana, it is going to generate a sattvic thought. If it's a rajasic vasana, it is going to generate a rajasic thought. If it's a tamasic vasana, it will generate a tamasic thought. A tamasic vasana cannot generate a sattvic thought, or a sattvic vasana cannot generate a tamasic thought. So the texture of your mind, the thoughts that are coming in your mind will tell you that your vasanas are getting purified. And purification of mind has got two aspects, I've always told you. One is lessening of likes and dislikes. What is purity of mind? What is purity of mind? Is having less and less likes and dislikes. And I've always told you, intensity should be reduced. I love this and I hate this should be converted into I prefer and not prefer. And that's how in steps you tone down your likes and dislikes, your loves and hates. You tone it down to likes and dislikes. You tone it down to prefer and not prefer. Ultimately, when you are on this path and you are listening to all these, doing all this satsang, you should come to a stage of udasinata, ut asina, ut above, asina sitting above both like and dislike. Like in Bhagavad Gita, we have heard sukha dukhe same krutva. So you rise above sukha and above dukkha also. That is the stage of great purity of mind. Okay, and if you are that way, udasina, ut asina, staying above likes and dislikes, then your vasanas are also purified. So far, so clear? Okay, now for realization, like I told you, when we see our brahmacharis or swamijis, what they are doing is they are trying to gain purity of mind. They're doing Shravan Mananam Nididhyasanam, and in that Shravanam only we have heard that purity of mind is required. Even we have heard that. So that is what they try to do. They try to purify their mind, because of which the vasanas are automatically getting purified. Vasanas we can't touch. Why? We don't even know what vasana is there. How you can touch or do anything to that vasana if you don't know? Thought you have control over thought because you see your thought. So if you have some evil thought, tamasic thought, you can say no, this is not good for my spiritual evolution. I should not entertain this sort of a thought. So when this mind is purified by Shravanam, so then what happens is evil thoughts don't come at all. It's like that, first maybe the evil, then the thought will come, you will recognize it, you'll say no, this is not conducive to my spiritual evolution. You will not do it. If spiritual evolution is your goal, then if some wrong thought comes in your mind, you will not do it. You will not do it. Because you see, your goal is, I've told you, if the Olympic athlete's goal is the gold medal, then that Olympic athlete is not going to go for practices, for parties. He's going to go for practice or his sport, right? So that way. Now, to a certain extent, when the mind is purified, when the vasanas are purified, automatically, tattva jnana, which is realization of the self, can happen. remember one thing, to know, to even realize, know, even we know. So forget that part of knowing, that intellectual knowing where there is, I know that I am Brahman. Okay, that is not what we are talking about. To realize Brahman, a certain amount of purity is enough. It doesn't have to be complete purity. So there are these words, Vasana Kshaya and Vasana Nasha. Vasana Kshaya, Kshaya means decay, and Nasha means destruction. So Vasana Nasha, destruction of Vasanas, need not happen to realize. This point is very, very important. Nasha need not happen, but Kshaya definitely is required. So if to a certain extent your Vasanas have decayed, decayed means what? Reduced. First of all, they're very purified. Even mind, you know, a purified mind is a mind which doesn't have too many thoughts. It has a lot of faith. How do I know my mind is pure? It has faith that yes, you know, I will be able to do this. I will depend on God and God will help me. See, there are some people who are constantly doubting. You know, like, have you seen people like that? Absolutely no faith. So purified mind will have great faith. So this mind, when it is purified to a certain extent, Vasana Kshaya has happened to a certain extent, realization can happen. So there are three words, Vasana Kshaya, Manonasha, and Tattva Jnana. So Vasana Kshaya and not even Manonasha, Manokshaya also means extreme purification of mind will lead you to Tattva Jnana. This sort of Tattva Jnana gives you a promise of Videha Mukti. There are three types of muktis. One is this Videha. Videha means what? When the body falls, when will the body fall? When its prarabdha is over. Body will fall. After that, there is no coming back for that person who has gotten Tattva Jnana. Now, such a person, remember, Vasana Kshaya has happened, Vasana Nasha has not happened. Okay? So Vasanas have reduced. Now, reduced, so Vasanas are there. Vasana can be of anger, Vasana can be of jealous, Vasana can be anything, any Vasana. So when we take the example, and that's the question was asked about Durvasa Rishi, right? The question was about Durvasa Rishi, okay. And anger, that was anger. So what has happened is, even though he has got Tattva Jnana, Vasana Kshaya has not happened. Sorry, Vasana Nasha has not happened. So there are Vasanas, and then these anger Vasanas are there, and that is what pushes. Vasana is an internal push, please remember. It's an internal push which will make you do things, say things, act in a way in which you really didn't want to do that. You really didn't want to say that. You really didn't want to act that way. But that push is so strong. Vasanas are extremely strong forces. And that's why that purification of vasanas is very important. That is one measure of spiritual evolution. That vasana is there. How much force is it applying from within? You can tell now. You can tell. I've told you, when I was 18, like, I honestly thought life was not worth living if I didn't see a movie on Saturday. It released on Friday. If I didn't see it by Saturday, I thought life was not worth living. I was 18 years old. Okay, that is that push where you think that life is not worth living because of this. And I do see movies even today, but do I think that life is not worth living if I don't see a movie released on Friday the next day? I don't. And even if I don't get to see it, I'm like, no worries, no problem. The push is not there. The vasana is there, but the push is not there. Okay, so this Tattvajnana, and this we see also in the life of Yajnavalkya. This is in Brihadaranyaka Upanishad. See, Yajnavalkya was a realized master, and he was very rich. Rich means that time they used to have many disciples and many cows. Cows was wealth in those days, and he had two wives, Maitreyi and Katyayani. Katyayani. Anyway, so Yajnavalkya goes, this Raja Janaka, from either he was Sitaji's dad or all those kings were known as Janaka. He had a debate of all the wise people. And he had said that whoever wins these debates, like, they would ask questions to each other, and then if the question can't be answered, then the one who questioned had to give the answer. I mean, he had to know it. Then he won. Then he'll ask somebody else, like that. So that debate, he says, I will give them 1,000 cows with 1,000 gold coins around their necks each. He was a king. He was, very rich. So 1,000 cows and 1,000 gold coins around each neck. And what happened, even before the debate starts, Yajnavalkya says to his student, to his disciple, please take all the cows and start going home. Debate hasn't even started. Nobody has opened even their mouth. The minute the king declares that this is what the winner will get, Yajnavalkya says, please take the cows and let's go home. Now, all these other masters who are there, they are also very wise. Gargi is there. There are other people who are there. They get angry. They say, what do you mean? You haven't even debated. You haven't even opened your mouth. You haven't even answered one single question. And you are saying that you are the wisest and you're taking all the cows. So he says, yeah, fine. I'm saying that. So anybody wants to ask me any question, please ask. And he answers. They ask him. Everybody asks him questions. And he answers each and every question, proving to them that he was the wisest. But when he comes home, he starts thinking that Vasana Kshaya has happened for me. Vasana Nasha has not happened. Why? Because there was this push of arrogance. I am the wisest. Immediately that push came. When the king announced, he said, I am the one who is one. So that I was there. And so when he comes home to his ashram, he says, no, I have got Videha Mukti. Now what I want is Jivan Mukti. That is the next type of liberation. And that is the only type that Bhagavan Shankaracharya recognized. That's why he says here, that which is the annihilation of the vasanas, vasana nasha, annihilation. Here and now you have to completely destroy all your vasanas, is called liberation by the sages. And this liberation is known as Jivan Mukti as opposed to Videha Mukti. Videha Mukti is when the body will fall. Jivan Mukti is liberation here and now. While living in this body, you are totally liberated. And there are sages like this. Bhikshu Gita, we have seen. Dattatreya, we saw Avadhuta Gita, we saw that in the Yajna, right? He was a Jivan Mukta Purusha, where he had 24 gurus. So that is the difference. That's why this Vasas, so here he says, even after the realization, there remains a powerful, beginningless, deep impression. Beginningless. Why? Because Vasana is avidya. Avidya is beginningless. Maya is beginningless. Why? Because Brahman is beginningless. So we don't know when it has started. We shouldn't worry when it started. We shouldn't worry when I developed all these vasanas. All we should worry about is how do I purify them? How do I reduce them? And purification is only done through purification of the mind. Intellect also cannot be purified. You cannot even touch intellect. Intellect is subtler than the mind. In the mind intellect stuff, intellect is subtler than the mind. So the mind can be touched, mind can be molded, mind can be tamed, mind can be disciplined. You can work with the mind. Mind is pliable. You can work with the mind. So work with the mind, work with that which you can work. What's the point? And this is what it is. This is what he's saying. So here Shankara is trying to define what liberation is. So as per Bhagwan Shankaracharya, Jivan Mukti is the only, means right now, here and now you get it. Don't wait for Videha Mukti. But Videha Mukti is there. And the third type of mukti, which is not mentioned here, which Bhagwan Shankaracharya never even bothered, is Krama Mukti, which we heard in chapter 8 of the Bhagavad Gita. Those was Calgary students. We have done chapter 8. In there, Bhagwan Shri Krishna talks about Krama Mukti. But Bhagwan Shankaracharya has always said that there is too much work in Krama Mukti and it's really not worth it, and who knows. So you try for Mukti right now, right here. This is what it is. So there are three things. Once again, there is Manonasha, Vasana Kshaya, Vasana Nasha, and then Tattva Jnana, which is realization of the oneness. Now this Manonasha, you might wonder, Manonasha means like if the mind is not there, all my functioning is happening through the mind. So if the mind is destroyed, now when we say Manonasha, what is destroyed is the we have the ego, Jiva. We have decided, we talked about Jiva before, right? Which is the reflection of consciousness. This reflection of consciousness has got two aspects. One aspect is the psychological aspect. One aspect is the functional aspect. The ego, I've always told you, to do karma, ego is required. Okay, even right. What is the definition of ego? One of the definitions of ego is identification with one thing or another. Now that I am speaking, I am performing an action, or you are listening, which is also an action, ego is required. I have identified with my body, only because of that I can speak. How will I speak? If I say I'm Brahman, then Brahman has got no vocal cords. So that reflection has identified with the vocal cords, with the throat, with the mind, because knowledge is in the mind. And with that identification, the jiva can function. The jiva can speak, the jiva can listen. Because you also have identified with your ears. I have identified with my throat. Now I have got whatever knowledge is in my mind, intellect, that is what I'm telling you. So ego is required. So this is the functional ego. As long as I don't say that, look how nicely I'm doing my lecture, or see how intelligent I am, that becomes the psychological ego. So when we say Manonasha, it is the nasha, it is the destruction of this psychological ego. And to help us with the destruction of the psychological ego, what is being told to us is karma yoga. So where the ego is required to do karma, any karma, ego is required. That ego, when it is surrendered to a higher altar, what we are doing is the functional ego we are using, but we are not allowing the psychological ego to take possession of us. That is what is meant by Manonasha. Manonasha doesn't mean that the mind is, completely gone and now there is no mind and the person is mindless. No, actually a liberated person will be extremely mindful, because the functional ego is very much alive. It has to remain alive. Otherwise that master will not function. We see Gurudev putting in so much work, Swami Vivekananda, so much work, right? But there are masters who choose not to even use that, and that's fine. Shastra allows them. We see Tapon Maharaj, we see Raman Maharshi. Nisargadatta Maharaj, he continued to make his BDs. That is functional ego. He was functioning. He was doing his job in the BD factory. He used to make BDs. Sri Nisargadatta Maharaj. Okay, so this is how Manonasha is to be understood. This is very important, this thing. And Karta Bhokta Hamiti Drada Ya Asya Samsara Hetu. Samsara is what? This world. This cycle of birth and death is Samsara. Hetu, reason. We have seen this even in chapter 15. How is this world maintained? It is maintained because of the karmas done by the jivas. And the karmas are being done as I am the doer and I will enjoy. With that notion, which is the ego, which is the psychological ego, karmas are being done. And those karmas are the one that are keeping this world going. This jagat is moving ahead, is sustained because of those type of karmas that all of us are doing. And pratyak drishtya atmani nivasata. So when by living in a subjective state of steady identification with the self, to get this steady identification with the self, this nididhyasana we just saw aids to meditation, but before that we need a lot of karma yoga to purify the mind. Do you get it? Any questions? A certain degree of purification of the mind can give realization of the truth, realization of Brahman. However, because a certain degree will give you, it is not a complete annihilation of the mind or the vasanas. Those vasanas will remain even after realization. And those vasanas are what prompts one to curse or be angry. Yajnavalkya got angry. Yajnavalkya was arrogant. And then what the story as it goes further, Yajnavalkya goes home and he denounces everything. He says, I don't want all this wealth. Wealth means cows and disciples and all that. Now I'm going to go and practice vasana kshaya, vasana nasha. Vasana kshaya has happened. I am going to now meditate to such a degree that all the vasanas actually get completely burnt. But for that, you need a complete withdrawal from the world. Complete, 100%. And that way one attains Jivan Mukti. Okay? For now, for us, just try to purify your mind. Simple. Okay? Aham mameti yah bhavaha dehakshadanatmani adhyasoyam nirastavyah vidusha swatmanishtaya. I and mine. You have heard this many times. This notion in the body, sense organs, etc., which are the not self, this superimposition, the wise man must end by identification with his own self. Wise man, or for us, seekers. As seekers, our effort should always be in the thought, I am not this body. This body is my instrument. And when I say body, sense organs, mind, this is my instrument. This is my tool. And therefore, I keep it healthy. I keep it because this body is the only way that I can do any kind of action. Even for studying, I need a healthy body. If I can't sit here, if I've got a fever, if I've got a cough, how can I talk? How can I study? So with that in mind, this body has to be maintained. It is, see, 90%, 99% of the people in the world, they will maintain the body because they think the body is me. So I have to look young. So I have to, I have to look young. I have to, age. There are so many people who are so sensitive about their age. It's amazing to me. They're so sensitive. It's body you must maintain the body. A spiritual seeker or, our Swamijis or Brahmacharis, they are also maintaining the body. We are also maintaining the body. There is a actress or model, they are also maintaining their bodies. Why? They are maintaining it because they want to maintain their youth, because it is their business, modeling or acting. So what is the attitude? As a spiritual seeker, our attitude is to maintain the body to serve the world. Okay, so this I and my, that's why I think this is the body. I've always many times told you, I think this is me and everything around me is the world. So the one thing that we need to get established in is that this body also falls in the world. Body also is world. Why? Chapter 13 we saw, it is kshetra. Body is kshetra. It is not kshetrajna. Kshetra it is. Okay. So, and it is a superimposition. It is adhyasa on the supreme reality. So we should keep this in mind. And that's why we need these weekly satsangs. We need these weekly reminders. This is, I'm not the body. I'm not the body. That's why we have Nirvan Shatakam. Mano buddhi ankara chittani naham. I'm not the mind. I'm not the intellect. I'm not the ego. I'm not memory. Mana buddhi ahankara chitta naham. It's not me. It's not me. I'm different. I'm different. But do I need them? Yes, those are my instruments. If I'm cooking, I need a range. I need the material. I need all that. So same way you treat your body. I need this body to serve the people, to cook, to act, to speak, to study. This is how you reduce your identification with the body, by separating yourself from the body constantly. Body mind. So this I and that is ego. I and mine, you and yours. There is a portion called Rama Gita in Tulsi Ramayana, where Lakshman ji asks, Lakshman is the student, Sri Ram is the teacher, and Lakshman asks 4 or 5 questions. One of the questions is, what is Maya? What is Maya, he says. And the answer that is given by Bhagwan Ram, this is in Tulsi Ramayana, you can look it up, it's in Aranyakand, I think. Yeah, Aranyakand only, because they're in this forest. He says, me and mine, you and yours is Maya, avidya. Because why? There is no me and mine. There is no you. There is no me. It is, everything is one. But then I always separate myself. I am here and you are there, and I am good and I am beautiful and you are this and you are that and you are all that. So this me and mine and you and yours, this separation when we do, this is a superimposition. The separation itself is a superimposition. So that we must keep in mind in our day-to-day activities. But your transactional activities must reflect that. But in your mind, you should know. Okay? This is the method he's giving to reduce vasanas. All right, fine. Nyatvam swam pratyagatmanam buddhi tadvritti sakshinam sohamitteva sadvritya anatmanyatmamati jahim. Realizing your innermost self as the witness of the intellect and its disturbances, and ever maintaining the thought that I am, shed your identification with the not self. So this is not in the seat of meditation. What we have to do in the seat of meditation, already he told us, aids to meditation. This is throughout the day. Throughout the day, and I think one of the lectures I mentioned, if you even sit quietly, you will know that even when you're walking, you will know that I am walking, and at the same time, I know that I am walking. So that Sakshi, the witness principle within us, and I told you, witness, Brahman is known as witness as long as there is something to be witnessed. Therefore, this Pratyagatma within ourselves is known as Sakshi Chaitanya. Sakshi because it is witnessing something. What is it witnessing? The disturbances in the mind, in the intellect. What is the disturbances? I'm very happy today. I'm very sad today. I'm depressed today. I'm afraid now to drive because there's so much snow. Okay, this doesn't apply to Calgary students. Vancouver people get afraid when they see the snow. I know Calgary will say, what? No, I'm not afraid. There's snow every single, no. But these disturbances, the one who is watching is the witness, and that is what I am. Whereas what I'm thinking, I'm happy, I'm sad, I'm worried. How can I drive today? How can this happen? What is this? This separation has to constantly happen. And this is not in the seat of meditation. This is throughout the day. So when you keep separating like this throughout the day, then when you sit in the seat of meditation, it'll be easier. It'll be easier. So even if we are not meditating to that at that level, because I told you those aids to meditation are very high level, this is something we can practice. So remind yourselves, and I told you this also before, the best reminder should be when your mind gets hurt, when somebody hurts you. Of course, physical hurt is okay. That's the body. It's easy. Okay, body is getting hurt and I'm separate. But mind, you say, she hurt me. He insulted me. She insulted me. She said something bad. That time it is very important that you separate yourself. You say, no, no, no. What is hurt is the mind, and what I am is the witness of this hurting mind. And then that way, that hurt will reduce. When you come to know that you are not hurt, your mind is hurt. You understand? This is what this is. So realizing your inner as the witness of the intellect, realizing how will realization happen? First of all, you have to know that there is something known as a witness. That's why Shravanam. And when now that in Shravanam you have come to know, then you have to practice it, na? Otherwise, you'll just hear and then forget about it tomorrow. Then how you will how will you realize it? How will you get established in that witness principle? If every moment of your life, you must constantly keep reminding yourself that you are that witness. That's how practice makes perfect. Right? When we learn something new, what we do it over and over and over again. So this over and over again, this is developing a vasana. So when you do this, this is the type of vasana that we must start developing in this life. You see, so constantly when you make that habit of reminding yourself that you are not this body, you are not this mind, what you're doing is, when you get habituated to that thought, you are creating a vasana for yourself. And that type of vasana we need. That's a good vasana. Those type of vasanas must be developed. Because those type of vasanas will then lead us, will help us in that complete identification with the self and dropping the vasanas completely. Okay, that I am, shed your identification with the not self. Not self is Kshetra from chapter 13 of Bhagavad Gita, Kshetra. You are the Kshetrajna, the knower of the field. You are not the field. Keep reminding yourself. Develop that vasana. Develop that vasana. Lokanuvartanam tyaktva dehanuvartanam shastranuvartanam tyaktva swadhyasapanayam kuru. Leaving your involvement with social formalities. Leaving all ideas of beautifying the body. Leaving aside unnecessary study of the Shastras, banish the superimposition which has crept up on the self. So this superimposition has happened, leaving your involvement with social formalities. Now, I don't know how many of you are listening to Narad Bhakti Sutra of Bhagwan Naradji, but Swami Guruji is doing it. And right in that, just I think it was yesterday's lecture, where the sutra is to give up all secular and spiritual activities. Right? Do you remember this sutra? In that, for bhakti, for developing bhakti, give up your loka vyavara and shastra vyavara. And then Guruji said, Are Baba, give up all transactions means how can I live? So then Naradji only has explained, give up those activities which are not conducive to your spiritual evolution. There it is bhakti. Those activities which do not support your devotion, practices of devotion, those activities you go up. Here what we say is those activities which are not conducive to your spiritual evolution, give those up, at least reduce those. See, the Mirabai, everybody knows Mirabai. She was so much into Bhakti Marga that when her husband, as long as her husband was alive, he had no problems. He had given her full freedom. I've actually seen, if you've been to Chittor in Rajasthan, you know, her temple is, he made a temple. He was a king. So on that fort, he had made a temple where she would do satsang with all the, you know, all the sadhus and everything. And her husband had no problems. Unfortunately, in 5 years of her marriage, her husband passed of natural causes. And her brother-in-law had great problem with this because he thought that she's a queen and now she's mixing with all these, you know, low lives. That's what he thought, the sadhus and this thing. So she wrote to Tulsidas. She's a contemporary of Tulsidas ji. So she wrote to Tulsidas ji that my brother-in-law is, you know, he doesn't like all these bhakti practices, and what should I do? And Tulsidas ji wrote to her immediately, you renounce your brother-in-law. You renounce your everything. Whatever comes in the path of your devotion, you renounce. And that's when she just left home and she went away. She never came back to her palace in Chittor. She went to Vrindavan and that's it. She never came back. So this is what is meant. Loka anuvartanam tyaktva. Anu, follow. Anu vartanam, behavior. So what other people, see, most of us are, you know, herd mentality. He did, I do. He did, she did, I do. Everybody's following. Everybody's watching that movie, then I should go for the movie. Everybody is doing this, then I should do that. This Anuvartanam, he says, give up that. Give up just, you know, we don't follow whatever Swamijis and, you know, brahmacharis are doing. We follow all these other worldly people. This is what he's saying. Whatever will come in the path of your spiritual evolution, give that up. So, you know, it's like, of course, now because of COVID, there are no parties, but Friday evening, if I hold a class and everybody will have a party, and the minute there is a party, dinner or whatever, they'll leave the class and go. That used to happen Saturday mornings when we used to hold class. Anybody got a lunch invitation? No, today I've got to go for lunch, Jaya, so I won't be able to attend class. That shouldn't be. That shouldn't be. I used to also get lunch invitation. Okay, not that I never got. And I used to tell them, look, I've got class. If you want me, I'll come after class. Lunch or even some programs in the morning. I said, I'll come after class. I've got class. Class cannot be missed. That is how our attitude should be. Why that? I remember when, you know, when I was working and the people would go for lunch. So I told them, I don't eat certain things. If you want me to come, then, you know, I will not eat beef and pork and all that, right? And they would respect me for it. They would actually tell me, Jaya, we have ordered vegetarian for you. We have ordered a Buddha's feast for you, whatever. Or I said, Mondays, I won't come for lunch because I fast. So they would not keep the program on lunch program on Mondays. When you have your principles, you need to stick by it. You can't just, you know, people are saying, so you're compromising them. Compromises for the lower. Sacrifices for the higher. So for your principles, you must sacrifice. You must not compromise. Oh, everybody is going on. It's okay. Monday I can break my fast. No, you shouldn't do. So this is what loka anuvartanam tyaktva. Tyaktva, renounce. Tyaktva deha anuvartanam. So everybody is trying to beautify their body. Everybody is trying to look young. Everybody is trying to, you know, whatever. And now you are blindly following. It's like blind leading the blind. Don't do that. As spiritual seekers, we must know what it is. We must take care of our body, but in our mind, we should know that this is not what I'm doing it for. I'm not doing it so that people will think how young I am and people will not know how old I am, or not those type of things. This is what he means. And then even unnecessary study of the Shastras. So what is unnecessary study? What is study? What is knowledge? See, knowledge is what? Actually, it is information. Correct? Agree? Information, what is knowledge? There is physics, then they tell us about whatever this, astronomy, they'll tell us about stars and planets and all that. So actually knowledge is information. Okay, fine. Now when you have that knowledge, when you have that information, if you make use of that information, it becomes knowledge. See, do you think anybody does not have this information that obesity is bad, or overeating is bad, or information that exercise is good? You think people don't know this? You think anybody in this world knows that? Is anybody saying, oh, except walking? No, that is very bad for your health. You should not be. Does anybody say that? How many of us are walking? If Vancouver is famous, it was raining, I didn't go for a walk. In Vancouver, 6 months you will not walk. Vancouver rains a lot. So that knowledge, when it is used, then it is knowledge. Otherwise, it is only information, and that information is to be told to other people. It's even Vedanta. When something happens, oh, you're not the body, it's okay. It happens to me immediately, I am like all kind of thing. So unnecessary study means you have studied the scriptures, but you are not following all that. Now we have heard that mind has to be purified, but you are not putting in any effort to do that. That becomes an unnecessary study. Study of the scriptures is not unnecessary. Please remember, scriptures must be studied. But the problem is, the point is that if you study that, are you following this thing? Now it has said, Lokanuvartanam tyakva. Stop following blindly the people. Just because the people herd mentality stop. How many of us have got herd mentality? She is doing, so I will do. My neighbor has this, so I want this. This big car, I want a big car. Money, how many of us are doing that? As spiritual seekers, we must not do that. Then this study is not unnecessary. Don't misunderstand this this instruction here. Unnecessary study of the Shastras. So you might think, oh, then Shastra study is unnecessary. Then why should I attend class? That's not it. That's not it. Okay? We have to follow a certain discipline. The first thing is to have a goal. So if our goal is to evolve spiritually, and that is why we are in the mission, that is why we are attending classes, then we must follow the instructions that are being given. If we don't follow the instructions, then it is an unnecessary study. There are many people like that. They attend. Oh, I'm a mission member, Okay. Any questions? We'll stop here. We'll continue next time. Vinita, does that answer your question that you had asked before the classes ended? Yeah.
Yes. Thank you.
Good.
But just one more thing, so eventually then once they realize that they still have to work on these vasanas, then eventually they get rid of it, right?
Yeah. Yes. That's why Yajnavalkya at least is the one example that we see in the Shastras, and also we see of Raja Janak. Janak also, one day suddenly he had got Tattva Jnana. But then he says, oh, I got Tattva Jnana, but my Vasana Nasha has not happened. So he takes time off and then he goes and he meditates and yeah.
So when the Vasana Nash happens, I mean, they're still alive, right?
Oh, yeah. Because what is keeping the body, see, alive is, who is alive? Body.
Yeah.
Soul, there is no question of alive because it is eternal. And what is keeping the body alive is not the vasanas. The prarabdha is keeping it alive. Prarabdha and vasanas are different. So as long as the prarabdha remains, the body will remain. You cannot touch the body. Nothing can happen to the body. As long as his prarabdha is there, it will keep on going.
Now, what about like Lord Shiva and all that? When they get angry, what happens?
No, Baba, Lord Shiva is not a spiritual seeker. Lord Shiva is Lord. Please. Do not compare them, Lord Shiva, with realized masters and all that. Nah? That is chodo. And why does he get angry? He got angry at Cupid because Cupid disturbed his meditation. Not like suddenly he got angry for no reason. Right? Yeah.
Jayaji,
When you say Lord Shiva, then no. Then there's a whole different aspect to it. Okay?
Jayaji, I have a question. I just wanted to, when you were talking in the beginning about Uttasana, like go above the likes and dislikes. So when you go and like when you're observing the situations and you want to go above these likes and dislikes, but you know, some people then they tell you that you have no feeling.
I know.
That is the reaction
Correct.
that we get from other people.
Correct.
That you are not even reacting to something, and then
Correct.
like you are what is that word?
Very
in
true.
Hindi? I mean, yeah.
Yes.
So,
very true. Very true. And I have thought a lot about that. Does it really mean that a person who is above likes? Because see, Bhagavan Shri Krishna has said it in Bhagavad Gita. Sukha dukkhe same krutva, right?
Yeah.
Does that mean he doesn't have any feelings? No. What it means is, see, people think that when you are influenced by the feeling, you have feelings.
Yeah.
But what is being told to us, don't get influenced by that. Remain objective. You know, that's why, what is sukha dukkha samay krutva? Make them equal means what? Your reaction to sukha and your reaction to dukkha has to be same. So people, when something tragic happens, we remain objective. Not that we don't feel, we remain objective, means we are not getting carried away by that emotion. That doesn't mean that that emotion is there, but the emotion is not having an effect on us.
Yeah, so exactly that is what I'm saying, that if we are like that, the reaction of the other people around us, you know,
Correct.
they think we are having no emotions.
Yeah. But then why are we developing that? Because Brahman is without reaction to feelings, and our goal is to reach that Brahman. That is Loka Anuvartanam.
Yeah, so exactly.
These people, if anybody, suppose if Swami Tejomayanji is there, you go and tell him, you know, that whatever, when I told him, you know, he remained calm. It was not like he started crying and he, first thing he said to me, be patient, be patient. That is what he said to me.
That
he
I've
phoned
seen
me right
myself.
away. See,
I've seen it myself.
Yeah, when he heard, he phoned me from the car. He was in a car going for Yajna. He phoned me right away. So that doesn't mean that he doesn't have feelings, but he's not getting carried away by that.
Yeah.
And then when I saw him, the first thing he did was he gave me a private audience and talked to me, right?
Yeah.
So that doesn't mean that they don't have feelings.
Yes.
And that doesn't mean that we don't have feelings either. But that is the perception of other people we can't help, because they are not on this path.
Correct. Right. I've seen him giving the same advice as he must have given you to my father when my mom passed away. And my dad was like completely, you know, he was so
upset.
much upset. But when he came to our house and he sat with my father and he sort of, he was very calm.
They calm you down. And in their presence, we also get calm.
We also calm down. Yeah, exactly.
We calm
because
down.
I know my mom used to go so often to meet him, and then you know, when he came, I was also like, I had just come 2 days ago, and this has happened, and then I was also upset. But just knowing that he was going to come, just absolutely calmed me down. You know, it was really wonderful when he came.
And think about it, you know, if he came to your house after your mom passed, like, do you think he had no feelings?
Oh no, he sat
But was
for
he
so
getting
long.
carried away? Now
No,
you are upset. Your father is upset. Now he's also upset and crying. And what is going to happen then?
Yeah,
Right?
no.
So we
Right.
need to be calm and objective, and then the same objectiveness we have towards our things also. Please remember, it's not like, see, this also should not mean it happened to somebody else, who cares? But when it
No.
happens to me, then I'll cry and this. No. If the same type of reaction you are doing when things happen in your own life, you are safe. But if it's a different, then that is not correct. That when someone, nothing, don't, when it happens to me, then suddenly I'm all upset. That shouldn't be. Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Ji,
Yes.
even with this Narad Bhakti Sutra, in one of the sutras, Guruji said that you think when you are above this rag and dvesh, you think it's a dull life, but it's not. And he explained it so nicely.
Correct.
It was, I think, third or the fourth one.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. Yeah. Udasin. He said it is
Udasin.
not. Because he says towards all other things which are not bhakti related, you have to be udasin. So there it is bhakti. For here, for us here, it's knowledge. It's the same thing.
Yeah.
So ultimately, bhakti and knowledge, both the goal is the same: reaching Bhagwan. Right? Yeah. Okay. All right.